Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Harkleroad and I'm a product owner and solutions architect with Wickersoft. Welcome to our presentation today, Kickstart Your Digital PMO Workplace. Before we get started, we have just a few quick logistics to go over with you. First off, due to the large audience, we'll not be opening up the phone lines for questions. However, if time permits, we'll review some of the most commonly asked questions via the chat panel throughout the presentation at the close of the webinar. We do have some folks on monitoring the Q&A panel, so feel free to leverage that chat module inside the GoToWebinar panel to ask your questions, and then they will get answered throughout, and if there's any unanswered ones, we'll have some time at the end to address those. You can also feel free to email me directly. My email address will be shown on a slide toward the end of the presentation, and you'll have my contact information then. If for some reason you get distracted or pulled away during this webinar, no need to worry. We are recording this. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and a link to that, as well as the presentation slide deck, will be sent to everybody who's registered at the end of today's webinar. Before we get into the technical content, I wanted to give you a brief overview of who we are and what we do. Wickersoft is a business productivity solution provider. We are 100% focused on Microsoft Cloud. We have many years of Microsoft technology experience across the board and have been working with customers to adopt and excel in their online environments since the beginning of SaaS, or Software as a Service. We offer pre-built solutions that are designed to get organizations up and running quickly with little upfront costs and leveraging best practices configuration so that you can get the most out of your Office 365, Project Online, Dynamics environment. So we run across the entire sphere of Microsoft products. We're triple gold certified. We hold the CSP, Cloud Solution Provider certification, and we're also part of the PSeller program with Microsoft. For today's agenda, we'll be covering the following topics. First and foremost, we'll cover some of the common challenges that PMO organizations face today. We'll then look at how PMOs have evolved over the years, and related to that, we'll look at the lessons learned that have come from PMO progression. We'll then go in into an overview of PMO capabilities, those that have been around for a long time, and those that have come into light a little bit more recently. More importantly, we'll talk about the benefits of moving your PMO to the cloud and the value received with a digital PMO. And finally, I'll be doing a demo of what a digital PMO could look like utilizing the Microsoft Project Online and our Project KickStart product. Okay, so with that, let's get into some of the details. First, I'd like to briefly touch upon the many reasons why organizations set up PMOs in the first place. A study was done a few years back by PMI and Forrester. They asked various PMO leaders what the primary focus was for their PMO. As you can see on this slide, it varies. The P in PMO can mean many different things: portfolio, project, program, or even a combination of them all. Make sure that your organization knows what your PMO's purpose is. Expectations are hard to manage when no one knows what to expect. All right, let's touch on some of the core capabilities executed by a PMO. You'll notice on the left-hand side with our Jenga blocks there, you'll see the common capabilities that have been around for many years: resource management, managing schedules, costs, team collaboration, and etc. But over the years, as PMOs have evolved and project management has progressed, additional capabilities have been thrown into the mix. Change is constant in today's modern digital workplace, so your tools must be agile. They must be able to accommodate constant change and shifts in your project environments. Work management is another one. You can't appropriately plan and manage your resources if you aren't including all the work that impacts them. It's no longer just project tasks either. Integration is a touchy subject. It sounds like a big word, and many organizations would rather keep systems segregated to avoid what they may see as potentially complex integrations. But the reality is many times it's simply necessary. And even more often, there's a solution available that makes integration simple. Productivity will always be limited if people have to go to multiple systems to find information, or even worse, enter data into multiple locations. Technology's come a long way, and many times what seems difficult is just simply not anymore. In fact, simplicity is actually next on the list. There's no reason to accept complicated. Many times technology itself is complex, but that doesn't mean that the user experience has to be. User adoption is key for a successful PMO, and moving to a digital PMO can bring many benefits, but one of the most noticeable is a simplified user experience. The way I like to explain automation, which you'll see towards the bottom of the blocks, is this. Figure you have 10 employees. Each of them takes 2 hours completing their timesheet every week, along with providing project status. That's 20 hours a week. Now let's say you automate one process, saving the same resources 1 hour per week. That's a savings of 10 hours per week. 10 hours a week times their hourly rate can mean significant savings per month, 40 hours per month. Let's say that those are $30 per hour resources. That now equals $1,200 in savings per month for just 10 resources. Now, how much will the solution cost that will help you with this automation? Most likely way less than you just saved. So automation is a key capability that you just simply do not want to ignore. All right. It's one of my favorite parts of the presentation. Let's take a look at a few of the benefits that you would receive with a digital PMO. We already know that your project environments will be ever changing. Moving to the cloud will ensure that you're able to make decisions quickly in an environment that is always up to date with the latest technology. How many times have you managed an entire project for a software update just to find out that 2 weeks later another patch is needed? Environments change, period. An online PMO can help you respond quickly and favorably to those changes. Scalability, there are many ways an online PMO can scale, adjusting user count, adding functionality that will be built on the latest technology. How many times have you added customization and then heard that your system is no longer supported because you built it on a version that is out of date? Connecting various user groups as the system is leveraged by more and more teams. Scaling is a faster, easier process with an online PMO. Lower cost of ownership. You can get up and running with an online PMO with little to no upfront costs, as well as lower costs across the board for your long-term investment. PMOs can gain from the cloud by reducing unnecessary overhead costs, like infrastructure investments and software distribution time and effort. An online PMO can also allow for better governance and control as well. Adding process, workflows, and other structure to your environment is simple and instant, so change will affect users across the board right away. As we develop new challenges with everyday work, there is always an urgency to resolve the issues right away. A digital PMO allows you to implement solutions quickly while there is good momentum. Oftentimes, taking action now keeps the momentum going and delivers much faster results. Instead of worrying about infrastructure, software updates, and your PMO environment in general, you can focus on delivering projects and business value while your PMO environment is automatically updated in the background without impacting your resources or timeline. There are many ways to collaborate, and as we all know, the more options we have, the more collaboration can take place. With a digital PMO, team members have many more options for collaborating, including online comments, social streams, Microsoft groups. The more people connect, the more productive we are. Flexibility is a key. A digital PMO is available on any of your devices, not just your desktop. It can be accessed from anywhere so that you can work whenever and wherever you choose. Wickersoft's digital PMO also provides access to other apps, allowing you to add functionality to your environment without the need for development or a separate system altogether. And lastly, competitive advantage. You never have to worry about whether or not you're staying on top of the competition. You can ensure that you will always be using the latest, newest, most cutting-edge technology. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about the Microsoft PMO digital workplace. Project Online. Project Online provides the whole spectrum of PPM features: program management, demand management, portfolio analysis and selection, reporting capabilities, team collaboration, social, issue risk, schedule management, time reporting, resource management, and also financial management. Not only that, but since Project Online is part of Office 365, you can leverage other Office 365 services such as email through Exchange Online, voice through Skype for Business, social through Yammer and Teams, insights through Power BI, and much more in a completely integrated and unified user experience. And once again, since all of this is part of the Office 365 ecosystem, Microsoft recognizes that productivity apps are mission critical. Using them is how work gets done. It's imperative to them to ensure that their services are trustworthy and reliable, all while continually adding new capabilities. There are over 20 million users of Project, with a new user being added every 20 seconds across over 10,000 organizations worldwide. Additionally, Project Online is in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for cloud-based PPM. So what is Wickersoft's KickStart for Project Online? KickStart for Project Online is a combination of tools, resources, and experts committed to making your experience with Project Online a success. You can significantly reduce your time to value and startup costs with a Project KickStart implementation. In fact, we can get you up and running in Project Online in as little as 3 weeks. The Project KickStart program leverages a pre-configured solution with automated setup, reports that are based on best practices, and a proven deployment approach to get you started fast with a fully working Project Online environment. The traditional enterprise software deployment methodologies just don't work anymore. We've been in this space for a long time, and I've personally witnessed this transformation. The old enterprise software deployments would traditionally spend a significant amount of time performing analysis and considering design for complex use cases. That was okay in the past when software was released every 3 years and organizations didn't face the rapid pace of change that they do today. Taking that approach now will often end up in a scenario that by the time development is ready to start, the business requirements have already changed significantly. All the while, the customers grow more and more anxious as they're waiting to show value for their investment decisions. Or you could take the opposite approach and go the rapid implementation route, such as a quick start or jump start. In this scenario, the implementation team is held accountable for quickly, quote-unquote, flipping the switch or hitting a go-live date, but most oftentimes fall short in delivering true results. So instead, our goal is to help customers set a course for continuous improvement over time with short cycles. Our iterative and incremental approach lets our customers minimize risk, reduce costs, and experience value from the solution as quickly as possible, all while leaving the door open for future growth and change. Included with Project KickStart Plus is a built-to-order design doc, configuration of project workspace templates so your project team can communicate and collaborate effectively. Our Project KickStart apps are what really allow you to accelerate usage and adoption of the Project Online PPM platform. They include UI, UX add-ons and enhancements, pre-built configuration of views and project templates, and pre-built dashboards and reports. Also included in every KickStart Plus implementation is training for the various roles, project managers, team members, resource managers, and executives. Training is always a key component of change management and adoption. We also include a 1-month subscription to our Project Online support portal. This slide is sort of our eye chart slide. You'll see most of these features in the demo. But if you want a comprehensive list of what all is included in our Project KickStart Plus package, you can review this slide when the deck is made available to our attendees after today's presentation. So now that we've covered common PMO challenges, PMO lessons learned, PMO capabilities, and the benefits of a digital PMO, I'm going to switch over to my Project Online environment configured with the KickStart components and give you an overview and demo of Wickersoft's Digital PMO workplace. So probably the easiest way to kind of understand what comes at a high level anyway with Project KickStart is to compare it with a vanilla Project Online environment with no customization, configuration, or add-ins added. So what you're looking at on my screen right now is such an environment. So a vanilla Project Online environment, look at Project Online as a platform, but it's not exactly a turnkey application that you can use on day one to do your project and portfolio management. So you do have some navigation into various functional areas. So if I go into the Project Center in this environment, now this particular one does have several projects already loaded into it. Okay. But things like the fields that you need to capture and demonstrate, project metrics, project performance, report on your projects, those have to be configured. The various views that you might want to use to slice and dice your portfolio of projects and take a look at projects that are in various geographic locations or part of various programs or part of different departments or portfolios, those would all have to be configured. If I navigate into a particular project in here, there's also kind of minimal configuration of the fields. Okay. And also the project sites that come with Project Online, they provide core collaboration and functionality, risk management, issue management, but again, not a terribly enhanced user experience or user interface to really enhance the team's ability to collaborate on the projects that they're working on together. So if I contrast that with a Project Online environment that has had our KickStart Plus applications added to it, one of the things that you'll notice is that we have got a tiled navigation at the top. This is configurable. You can change the size of these tiles. You can change the color scheme behind them. They provide navigation not only to out-of-box functional areas like Project Center and Resource Center, but also you can configure tiles to navigate to any reports that you may have built or any areas within the environment or even outside the environment, external websites perhaps. Also on the tiles, we have a little bit of information. We call those live feeds. So for instance, if I'm logged in here as a team member on a project and I have certain timesheets to fill in or there are risks or issues assigned to me from a project, I can see those details right here without actually having to navigate to the project or the timesheet to fill that information in. When I do navigate, however, I'll be able to interact with those areas. Below the tiles, we've got a configurable dashboard for the home page. So if you wanted to see a distribution of your projects across, let's say, portfolios in this case, or across the different types of projects that you're doing, you can present that on a home page or any page really within the Project Online environment. Okay. The charts themselves can also be configured to utilize different data points. So if you would rather see, perhaps on the home page, maybe a % of budget being consumed by the different portfolios instead of just a % of the overall project count among the different portfolios, that would be a simple configuration for this. Not only that, but all of the charts that we use on our pre-built dashboards are connected to each other. So in other words, if I'm running, let's say, this 2020 Vision portfolio, and I select that pie slice in the one chart, I'm then able to focus in on that 2020 Vision portfolio, and I can see the different types of projects that are running within that. I can see what the various health values of the projects within that portfolio are, and where my projects are in terms of their life cycle phases. If you want to get really fancy, we can also help you construct using some of our additional add-ons an even more enhanced digital PMO with the ability to really customize your navigation tiles, add images, okay, and really design and enhance your landing pages for your Project Online environment overall or for different PMOs perhaps within your Project Online environment. But that would be a little bit additional customization beyond just a normal KickStart. So going back and speaking specifically to the KickStart components, let me go ahead and navigate into a particular project that I have loaded here in the environment. Also part of the KickStart Plus product is configuration of the environment. So it's not all just additional apps that are loaded onto Project Online, but also you'll notice a contrast between this view in the Project Center versus what you saw when I first navigated into the Project Center in that vanilla environment. So configuration of various fields like overall project health, the health of the budget within this project, schedule health, okay, configuring the fields, and then also configuring views. So in this case, I can see the projects from various portfolios. And again, if I wanted to see projects distributed across different business units or different geographic locations, if I wanted to see projects based on where they are, in their life cycle, we also include pre-built and pre-configured views as part of KickStart Plus. So if I navigate into one of these projects, for instance, I'll go into this software development project that we have here. Drilling down into the details of this project also helps kind of illuminate some of the features that are part of KickStart Plus. So you'll notice we have several different pages of information, and I'll go through some of these, not all of them, okay? But for instance, if you have not only project fields, but also documents for the project, risk log, issues log, action items, change requests, things that you might store on a particular project's project site, okay? You can have, for each of the projects that are loaded into Project Online, okay, you can provision a project site for each one. You can configure when that happens. It can happen right away when you load the project into Project Online, or it can come at a later point down the road. Okay, but with the project site, that's the main collaboration area where the team will upload documents, work on documents. For instance, a charter. Where would I load the charter for a particular project? Oftentimes, it makes the most sense to put that on the project site for a particular project. So let me navigate down to that one first, and then I'll come back and talk about some of these other details pages that we have here. So as part of Project KickStart, we'll include up to 2 different project site templates. So for instance, if you're running some waterfall type projects, we could configure a template for the waterfall type projects that show you which linear phase the project happens to be in. Of course, if you're not really following a waterfall type methodology, you might want some different functionality and different features on your project site. So again, we, as part of KickStart, will configure up to 2 project site templates for you. The visual elements that do exist down at the project site, though, also consist of these navigation tiles. And again, the tiles themselves, while they are navigation, so for instance, if I needed to log a risk or an issue on this particular project, I could click on the icon to take me into, in this case, the risks list and log a new item. But back on the home page or the landing page of this project site, we also have the ability to sort of get a glimpse of what is in those lists. So for instance, just hovering over the risk tile, I can see that I have 7 active, 1 postponed, 4 closed. If I want to log a new risk directly from here, I can just simply click on the plus symbol and a form will come up so I can log an item directly to the risk. So less navigating back and forth between the various lists that we do have down at the project site. Okay. Also, an out-of-the-box project site template would only include risks, issues, and a document library. We include several additional lists or registers on top of that. For instance, the ability to track action items and change requests, a decisions log. Okay. We also incorporate OneNote. So if you use OneNote in your organization, our project notebook might be a good location for perhaps the PM to capture meeting minutes, things like that. Right below the navigation tiles, we have a project status visualization application. So this can be configured to show whichever project details you want to the team members. So in this case, I'm showing how far along we are in the project, when it's scheduled to start and finish, what the cost, how much is remaining. But again, there is a configuration setting for this where we can go in and choose different fields to show here. So for instance, if it's a sensitive project and showing costs to the team members, you might not want to do that. We can configure this to show instead, the amount of work that's left to do. Maybe how many active, change requests there are being evaluated, things like that. Okay. And then also below that, like I said, for the waterfall type projects, we have a little visualization that shows you where you are in the life cycle, and then links that can be configured for those various phases in this case. So I can see in this particular case, my project is in the manage phase. That's when we should start working on customer acceptance documents, start logging our lessons learned, things like that. Also, on top of a lot of the lists and registers we have down at the project site, we have dashboards built on top of them as well. So the risks and issues is a good example. So those leverage just standard SharePoint list functionality. However, when you want to share details of the project with somebody that's part of the project team, perhaps external to the project, things like that, we also have dashboards built on top of them that can help you visualize a little bit better and get insights into what's going on with your risk management, issue management, etc. So if I click on the risks dashboard in this case, I'll have a completely visual overlook on what's going on with the risk management in this particular project. I can see how many risks we have organized by their exposure value, the different categories of risks that exist in here, different status of risks. So again, if I wanted to focus on, let's say just the active risks, I can click on active up here in the dashboard, and then the table of the risks down below filters on just the active risks, and I can click on these to go into any of the existing risks if I need to edit one, maybe change the status, things like that. Okay. Same thing applies for, we have a stakeholder analysis customized list here. So if you want to share with the team and share with the project sponsor who the primary stakeholders in the project are, okay, a list is a good way to capture that information, but it's not exactly a great way to, to analyze or share that information with somebody. So we have a little grid stakeholder analysis report that's built on top of that so that you can see of the stakeholders on the project who has high level of influence, who has a low level of involvement. Okay, and all of these visualizations that we provide include the ability to export, print, and even annotate them. So that, for instance, if I wanted to put this into a PowerPoint slide deck or something like that, I've got the ability to do so. We also have test case management included as part of the KickStart product. So if you do not already have a test suite application to manage test cases for your project, you can leverage our test cases, customized SharePoint lists. And again, on top of that, we have a dashboard to be able to visualize how our test cases are going. So we can see what % of our test cases are passed, which ones are failing or blocked, which ones are we skipped, okay, both in a chart form and also in a table form. So those are some of the features that we have available down at the project site. Now, if I navigate back up to the project details level for this one particular project, presumably acting as, let's say, a project manager. So a project manager who's just navigated into the project center and clicked on this. One of the things we want to do is help to cut down on the navigation back and forth between a project's details, like the fields, the schedule, things like that, and the project site. The project team would spend most of their time on the project site because frankly they're not going to be managing the schedule, they're not going to be editing fields, things like that, but they will be collaborating on documents, and as things like risks, issues, and tasks get assigned to them, they'll be interfacing with those, and they'll do so down at the project site. But as a PM, again, cutting down on the navigation back and forth, we include, as part of KickStart, the ability to roll up some of those details that are in fact down at the project site, like risks, for instance, action items, issues. I'm able to interface with those or interact with those lists directly here on the project details, so I don't have to navigate specifically down to a project site. So if I need to, to log a new risk or an issue as a PM, I can do so directly from this project details page here. Same thing applies to action items, issues, change requests. If I am with my project sponsor and my project team providing a, let's say, weekly or maybe bi-weekly status update, we've got a status updates list for that where I can list out my key accomplishments, any upcoming tasks, any open issues, blockers, things like that. Okay, and then all of that information is then included as part of our out-of-the-box KickStart project status report. So an on-demand project status report, so that I, as a PM, don't have to copy and paste some details like project description and justification and % complete, some milestones from the schedule, some active risks and issues from the risks and issues log, and paste them together in a status report that might be in PowerPoint or something like that. We've got an on-demand one that can be accessed by the project managers or other team members. You can secure who has access to the project status report, but the on-demand project status report automatically gathers all those various project details, okay, and combines them together in a nice simple one-pager here. So things like some of the project fields, okay, KPI values, the details from that status updates list, so the weekly updates that I'm providing when you run the project status report, it will pull whatever the most recent status update from that list is. Okay, and then details from the schedule. So if there are any upcoming milestones, tasks to be completed this week, things upcoming in the schedule, those are presented on the status report. Okay, and then any of the active risks and active issues. So you may have, may have a couple dozen risks that have been logged on the project, but hopefully we're closing out some of those, maybe deferring some of them. It's not necessarily a risk that we need to worry about anytime soon. So the project status report keys off of just the active risks, active issues, and also includes them in the status report. And again, we've got controls at the top of these, so if we wanted to export this as either an image or a PDF to share with somebody else, print it, or even annotate it, mark it up before sharing it, we've got those capabilities built in as well. So if I close out of this project and sort of navigate back to this project online landing page, we'll talk about some of the other features in terms of dashboards and capabilities that are included as part of Project KickStart. So one of the core functional areas in Project Online, you have the ability to manage resources. So there is a resource pool included in Project Online. Of course, it must be configured, and you have to, do things like configure roles, configure rates on your resources, things like that. That work effort is included as part of Project KickStart Plus. So for instance, when I navigate into the Resource Center, if I wanted to see a grouping of my resource by whatever their job role is, okay, that would be part of the KickStart configuration itself. So a little bit of configuration effort on top of the out-of-the-box capabilities. But then in terms of actually managing the resources, so having your line managers or your functional managers, giving them the visibility and the ability to see what's on my team's plate this week. What's coming up for some of my resources in the next month. Or if I'm taking part in any kind of long-range planning or portfolio planning, if we wanted to do some new projects, let's say the beginning of next quarter, and they're primarily infrastructure type projects where we know we're going to need some BAs up front, we're going to need maybe some developers or some system engineers up front. What type of availability do we have in those resources looking ahead into the future? So also included as part of Project KickStart are some pre-built, pre-configured dashboards that allow the resource managers and the line managers to get some of those insights. So for instance, the resource schedules. Kind of a tactical view of what's going on with my team of resources from day to day, week to week. So when you come into the resource schedules, you can select the time frame you want to look at. You can look at, as short as a week, or you can look over multiple months. You can select the resources by role, by the department, by their reporting structure, okay? And you can select multiple resources at once, and you can see a presentation down on the grid of what projects they're working on, how much work they have been assigned from those different projects, and even a color-coded indicator letting me know which resources are over-allocated, will show in red, okay? Somewhat under-allocated, so they're being used but they're not being fully used, showing in yellow, and anybody that's sort of hitting that sweet spot of getting properly allocated in green. Okay. Plus we have the ability to zoom out here, so if we're looking at a longer time frame than, let's say, just 1 week, okay, we can see color coding over those future time periods, and you can always hover over the day to see, again, at the resource level, which projects they're on and how much work is being assigned to them from their various projects. Okay. So kind of a tactical view of what's going on with my team. If I want a little bit more of a strategic view from the individual resource standpoint, okay, we also have what's called our resource capacity analysis. So it's a stack bar chart where, again, you can come in, select the time frame, select the resources individually or by role. So I can select, let's say, all of my analysts, and then the resources that I have available for selection here will only include analysts in that, or I can choose them by their reporting structure or department. Okay, and when I view the report here, depending upon the time frame that I looked at, it will break it down over months. I can drill down into individual weeks if I want to. And the way that this stack colored bar works is you can see the legend over here on the right. Each resource is depicted with a color. So if I wanted to focus in on a specific resource or two, I can select the ones that I want to remove from the chart over here. The black line represents capacity for that time period. So if I wanted to see just specifically, is Aaron at or over capacity, let's say, next month we've got some additional project work that we would maybe like to put on his plate, I'm able to glean that kind of information from this report individually and also across multiple resources. Plus in the table down below, I can again get down to the nitty-gritty details of what specific projects these resources are working on and what their capacity and utilization in these time periods are. Plus, like I said, if I wanted to drill down into, I'm looking at a monthly view of these resources right now, but if I wanted to drill down into, let's say, a weekly view, okay, of the resource utilization for whichever resource I just clicked on there, I have the ability to look at that more granular view of the work assignments or the work requests that have been made of this particular resource. Okay. And if we're talking a scenario that's more akin to, let's say, planning, portfolio planning, maybe long-range planning of projects, and taking a look at our resource pool availability at the role level, we also have a capacity report that automatically does the aggregation for you to those role levels. So once you've defined the roles in your organization, so you've configured the values that are in your role fields for the different resources, okay, then what you can do in this report is you can come in, select certain roles. So in this case, my scenario here, or my use case is, again, beginning, let's say, of next quarter, we would like to assess our ability to do a couple additional infrastructure projects or whatever type of projects, but hopefully you have kind of an idea of what type of resources would be needed in those projects up front. Okay, you can select those resources in here, select the time frame, and then again see. So it looks like developer and analysts in the aggregate are not fully utilized in the beginning of the month here. And again, if I want to deselect or focus in on a particular role here, okay, I can see how much of that role is being utilized. I can open up the table down below and I can see, not looking at individual resources here, but any of my resources that are mapped to this analyst role, okay, that are on the AGH resource planning, the IT readiness and maintenance, the asset tracking system projects. It's automatically aggregating those project details, getting the project work, the resource requests that have been made for those resources, and giving me an aggregate look here. So again, I can look, July is the current month, but I can look out in the future. I could look, 2, 3, 4, 6 months out into the future and see what type of availability I have across the various roles within my organization and help me do that portfolio planning with, perhaps a little bit higher chance of success. If I navigate back to the home page here, we also include a pre-built dashboard that you can configure and customize to allow you to interact with projects at, again, an aggregate level of either departments or programs or portfolios. So I'm going to navigate into one that we call the portfolio review dashboard here. Okay. So what we have is a combination of some charts at the top and a table below, again, which can be configured. So you can have any of these charts utilizing different data points in the system. So if you want to see a distribution of projects by, percent of projects by portfolio, percent by PM, or you want to see a percent of projects by the amount of budget that they're consuming, these charts can be configured to change to different data points. You can have multiple charts. So, some might focus, like, for instance, this one, I see my projects across the different portfolios. And if I was using this to review, perhaps with a particular PM, I can come in here, select that PM from the chart or the table down below, filter the results down, see what type of projects they're managing, where they are in the life cycle, how the health of their projects is looking overall. Okay, and if I really wanted to, drill down and filter in on, let's say, the underperforming projects, I can apply some additional filters in the table below. These columns that are being shown, okay, are also configurable. So I can show different project details here. Again, if I don't want to show cost, maybe I'll show things like who the project sponsor is, how much work is remaining in the project, things like that. So kind of similar to a project center view, but with the ability to include some visualizations at the top and also the ability to navigate from this dashboard into a project status report. So I can use this to open the project status report of multiple projects at once, or in this case, just my projects that are underperforming, or link directly to the schedule for multiple projects all at once. Okay. Or I've got a configurable hyperlink that could take me perhaps to the project site, or perhaps to a budget page, or project financials page, something like that, so that I could drill down into what the budget details for the project are. So that's kind of a high-level look at most of our add-ins, our UX and UI improvements that come as part of the KickStart Plus product. Also, as I've mentioned already, configuration and a built-to-order, based on the specifications, the needs of your organization. Configuration is part of Project KickStart Plus and training. So for instance, when your users go in to report project status, perhaps using a timesheet, okay, by the time you're ready to roll this out to production, the time periods on your timesheets will be configured per your specification. The views themselves on your timesheet, so for instance, if you like a view like this where you're grouping your projects by the project name, and then you can see the different tasks within the project so that your resources can report time against them, okay, that would be considered one of the deliverables from Project KickStart as well. I'm going to navigate back to my slides now. Now that demo was done via my laptop here, but a lot of the workforce these days is mobile. So part of Project Online is the ability to connect via mobile apps for iOS and Android. So for instance, there is the ability, we didn't get into any Power BI reports in that particular case. Power BI, we do have report packs Those are an additional cost above and beyond Project KickStart, and we do have a webinar coming up on them. But if you have executives that are using, let's say, a tablet or even an iPhone, and there's some Power BI dashboards that they might want to consume on the go, there's an application that they can utilize for that. You've got resources working on your project team that want to fill in time quickly and easily, and they're out on a shop floor maybe, or they're on the go, and they're not logging in with their laptop very often. So there are applications to report time against your project work in Project Online, as well as if you're utilizing the project workspaces, the team sites, there's a SharePoint application, etc. So here's an example of what the timesheet interface looks like on a mobile device like a phone. So again, as tasks get assigned to me from various projects, okay, I can open up my Time Reporter app, I can fill in my timesheet, okay, submit it to the project manager. And in that other scenario where I'm, let's say perhaps an executive on the go with my phone, and I need to look at certain dashboards, okay, and consume some information with regards to, hey, how are some of the projects doing within my portfolio? How is my portfolio doing overall? Okay, I can get that information quickly, easily, and on the go. So I'd like to talk about some special offers that we have now. We do provide a free Project Online assessment and roadmap. And also, if you're interested in kicking the tires with Project Online and the KickStart components, we offer a 30-day free Project Online trial. So if you're interested in that, you can contact NA Sales, that's North America Sales, at Wickersoft.com to get more details on any of those. Or if you want to schedule a live one-to-one demo to see, perhaps a little bit more specifically, I want to focus on resource management, or I want to focus on program management, or some specific functional areas that are, a little bit more detailed and a little bit more specific to your environment, please reach out to us at this email address, and we can help you out with that. So thanks for joining us today. On the slide here, you can see some of the upcoming webinars that we have on our website, Wickersoft.com, www.wickersoft.com. There are links to the upcoming webinars. You can register for those upcoming webinars as well. And you can find more information on all of our product offerings and solutions up at our website at Wickersoft.com. So again, my name is Aaron Harkelrode. I am a product owner, solution architect with the organization. My email address is on the screen here. So if you have any technical questions or even non-technical questions regarding the content today, or anything in general that was presented in this webinar, feel free to reach out to me or nasales@wickersoft.com, and we can help you out. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but I'll remain online to answer any questions that there might still be in the chat panel.